What's going on, everybody? Dylan Matthew on hand for the Sport Profile. I'm so glad to be joined by Brooke Destra of NBC Philly. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Happy Saturday. It finally stopped raining.
Yeah,
Um,
weather sucks.
it's been a crappy week.
It really has. I mean, and it changes your mood.
Absolutely. It's like one of those it's cold, it's rainy, you don't want to leave the house, but you have a full-time job, so you don't have a choice. I'm just kidding.
Also,
Luckily,
speaking of which, then how far are you from the Wells Fargo Center?
so I live in South Jersey, so
Okay.
I'm about 20 minutes from the arena. I'm lucky that it's right over the bridge, so it's not that
Mhm.
big of a commute. So not a lot of complaints there. I'd rather go over the bridge to get to the city than coming from like the heart of the city coming out. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I get that. Have you been in South Jersey your entire life?
Yeah, born and
Okay.
raised, and I'll probably stay here for a lot longer.
No, I feel the
Just
same
'cause,
way. I'm from Central Jersey. Hope you believe that exists. Um,
mm,
Metuchen High School, Central Jersey Group Two.
okay.
So let's talk about like your start. How did you get into sports reporting? At what age do you think like I can make this a career out of this?
So back when the Flyers made their last Stanley Cup run, 2009, 2010,
Hmm.
I remember watching them, when they came back from the 0-3 deficit against the Bruins, um, to make it down to the conference finals and then the cup finals. I remember going, imagine being a reporter in that room after they won game seven to
You were
advance.
saying this to someone?
Well, this was kind of like what I was thinking back when I
Oh, okay.
was, what, 12, 11, something. I was young.
Hmm.
And I just remembered thinking, imagine being able to cover such an exciting game like that. It's like a historic moment in sports. And from
Absolutely.
that point going forward, I was like, I want to be able to be in that atmosphere, to cover these teams, to cover these moments, and have my name somewhere across the lines of they were there and they got to experience it too. So that was kind of the first time I ever realistically thought about it and wanting to do that. And I consider myself a very, I call it determined, but I think I'm also very stubborn when it comes
Mhm.
to, working to what I want. So as soon as I had an idea of what I wanted to do, I was like, all right, it's go time. We're making it happen. So that was probably the first initial, wow, like this is something I think I can make a career of back
Did
when I
you
was 12, 11
did
ish.
you like play sports growing up at all? Like, did you? I assume you were a fan of the Flyers because everybody in South
Hmm.
Jersey says they're from Philly, and then everybody's a Flyers fan, and all the
Hmm.
Philadelphia teams. It's just a narrative. So, did you play sports growing up? How did you get into hockey?
So my older cousin, he played growing up, and we're about 5 years different in age. So he's going to be 27, I believe. But when I was younger, I would go to his games, and when I would go over, my aunt and uncle's house, they always had hockey on. I come from a really big Philly sports family as well.
Sure.
So my uncle's big on hockey. My dad follows absolutely everything. So, and I was also the only girl on the one side of the family, like niece, nephew wise, and
Really
cousins. So I had to make sure that I did something that kept me involved with the family.
makes sense.
Not that they would have like shunned me or anything,
No, it makes perfect sense.
but I wanted to be around them in all aspects that I could. So picking up a lot of things. And I mean, I watched every single like Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles from when I was young. Um, but I just really kind of stuck to hockey once I got a feel of all of them. And I think it's because of the relationship I had with my cousin and, my dad and my uncle and everything. So that's how it kind of stuck track. And I played basketball for 8 years. I played softball for a few years.
Hmm.
I tried tennis. I was terrible at it. And yeah, so a little bit here and there, but nothing too crazy.
So you said you were, stubborn, but I feel like in all of what you said there, it really just shows your ambition. So I know you started a website called the Daily Puck. It was an all-girls site that, writing about Philly sports. Talk about the inspiration that went behind that, why you started it, and really what was your vision behind it.
Sure. So about 2 seasons ago, I linked up with an old friend of mine from high school, Alex McIntyre, as you guys know,
Hmm.
and I noticed on Twitter back then we had, our personal Twitters, when we started the Daily Puck, we created our, Alex on 11th, Brooke on Broad whole
Sure.
vibe. Um, but back then I noticed on her Twitter, she's tweeting about the Flyers and hockey, and I was like, oh, I never knew this. So whenever we started to reconnect, we reconnected over hockey, and we were friends in high school for 4 years. Back when this was happening, we were about
Sure.
2, 3 years out of school. So I haven't really seen her in person in a long time, but we connected over this. And we wound up going to a practice 2 seasons ago when they came home from game 5 against the Penguins in the first round of the playoffs 2 seasons ago. And I just remember looking at her and I was like, I really want to make a blog. I want to be able to write about hockey. And she goes, count me in if you'll have me. And I was like, absolutely. I don't want to do any of this on my own. So it was one practice, almost 2.5 years ago. It feels like way longer.
Sure.
And we spent the whole off season planning, strategizing how we were going to market ourselves, how we were going to be different, how we were going to try and kind of nudge our way into this tightly knit industry.
Hmm.
And, that whole experience of like, it's a summer I'll never forget because it was so new and everything was like, it was like the first time you were experiencing things like this. So once it launched, it, you know, took off in ways that I had never even imagined we were able to expand. We brought on photographers. It was just, we were credentialed for the Lehigh Valley Phantoms within our first 3 months of
Wow.
writing. So that alone just made me think we're doing something right and we're on the right path. So
Absolutely.
that made me, so proud to be able to put out my work and have my name attached to this. And though the Daily Puck was short lived, it kind of gave me so much inspiration and drive to keep pushing forward. And I'm I wouldn't change any of that for nothing. Like it helped sculpt me into the writer and the person that I am. And everybody who was a part of it, obviously, especially Alex, um, it was just I had the time of my life. So it was I still love my Daily Puck. So
Of course. Of course. Now, how many people did you have like writing for it or like working on it with you?
so
Aside from you and Alex.
yeah. So initially, like from the ground up, it was Alex and myself.
Hmm.
Um, we handled writing, social media. We had Kate Freese, a another photographer,
Hmm.
who came on and liked the idea of working with women, like a women-run blog.
Hmm.
So she offered her photos for our story, since obviously we weren't credentialed with the Flyers, so we can still have professional, you know, um, photographs for our blogs. And then obviously Alex evolved into this phenomenal photographer as well.
Sure.
So we started using hers as well. And come, I believe it was the end of January, we brought on 3 more writers. Um, and it was just, I don't know, it was crazy to think and go through those applications and hear that people actually wanted to be a part of something that I created. And I don't know, it's still a surreal feeling when I get to talk about it. And yeah, I don't know. I'm always going to be a little sappy when it comes to that. They'll always have a special place in my heart. And I went from wanting to be a writer to learning how to run a website, run social media, produce, edit, and it ultimately kind of led me up to the new work positions that I have now and have had over the summer. So it was, I don't know, it was just the craziest thing. So I'm really lucky for the opportunities and the
Of course.
experiences that it gave me.
Of course. Now, it's really all been a whirlwind for you because I know I think you're at NBC Philly for maybe just under a year from going from part-time. So just describe like what that whole experience was like, how you got involved with them and how you really just grew there in such a short amount of time.
Sure. So back when we were still with Daily Puck and figuring out like what to do with this blog and everything,
Hmm.
I had also applied for an internship with NBC Sports, and it was with our live events team for the Philadelphia Flyers. And
Hmm.
I found out, um, what day was it? It was either August 3rd or August 4th. It was a Thursday. It was first thing in the morning. I remember it. And I got the call from um, basically saying that I got the job. They were offering it to me, and they were really excited for me to come on board. And it was just, I don't know. It made me feel like everything that I was doing was like right, like the universe was nudging me, like keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
And so I interned all of last season with our live events team, and from being in the production truck, and I shadowed Taryn Hatcher a lot, and now she's a good friend of mine.
Hmm.
And I just was able to learn so much from the production side of things. And I have a background in film and production as well.
Hmm.
So it wasn't very new in that aspect, but it was new when it came to live television and broadcasting and sports.
Sure.
So that was awesome. And when the season was ending back in April, I was like, holy crap, what am I going to do?
This is
Because this is last April, yes. And I remember going into full on panic mode because the internship was going to end. I was graduating a month and a half after. I just didn't really know what to expect. And I'm sure all seniors in college can kind of understand the feeling of anxiety and
Sure.
where you're going next. What's your
I
next
don't want
step?
to experience that yet. I'm only a sophomore.
Oh, you're gonna feel it. I promise.
Oh, I know I will. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
Not now.
So, so I was put in touch with somebody up in the newsroom at NBC who forwarded my resume and my goals as a member in sports media, like what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So Travis Hughes, who had reached out to me and said, "Hey, we have a producing position available. Would you like to meet and discuss this and kind of have like an interview for it?" And I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it." So it was a pretty short process in that regard, but we met and it was awesome. And I kind of felt like, I don't know, like I was meant to be here. I mean, I said I wanted to work at back back to 2009, 2010 when the Flyers were in the Cup Finals. I remember saying I want to work at CSN, obviously now NBC Sports, and
Hmm.
I was like, I'll do anything it takes to get there. And it's crazy to be here now. So I graduated in May. I had the job offered to me. I started 3 days after I graduated. I went on vacation with my friends to celebrate, and then about 3 days after, I was starting part-time producing, and I produced up until November, and now I am officially a full-time digital content creator, and I switched from the digital team to the social team, and it's crazy and everyone's amazing and supportive. And saying this all like in a row of things is so crazy because I didn't realize like how much has changed in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it really is like you said you graduated. So I'm envisioning you walking up, shaking the president's hand, getting your diploma, and then 3 days later, oh, I'm going to work.
Job. I was like, holy crap. It was, oh my gosh. It, yeah, it was, I don't know. Sometimes I get like lost for words when it comes to breaking that all down. And I know that it's not something that happens with a lot of people. I know sometimes it takes a lot more time to really get settled in the work field, especially
Mhm.
the one that we're in. So I
Absolutely.
absolutely never take that for granted. I am so grateful for the opportunities, the people I've met, the experiences that I have. And I always told myself that if I can wake up every day going into my job feeling inspired, then I'm in the right profession.
Sure.
And every single day that I have been in this office, it's never failed to make me sit back at one point and be like, this is my job. This is what I'm actually able to do every single day. And it's, I don't know, it's surreal. So I'm so grateful for it. I really am.
Can you describe that first day, walking in as a full timer? Because that's obviously what everybody aspires to. So that day you sign like that contract or whatever, that you're full time is like, damn, like I have my full time job, like doing what I love. So you walk into the newsroom, I assume, what's like going through your mind?
I think the craziest thing is that at that point, it kind of just felt like another day. But it's not like downplaying the fact that I'm full time. It's more
Sure.
so playing up to the fact that I have that experience every time I walk in.
Hmm.
It wasn't like, yes, like I finally started. I feel like that every time I walk through our front doors, every time I walk up our steps to the newsroom, and I walk in and I see our whole layout, I see our analytics board, I see my friends and my coworkers and colleagues, and I'm just like, this is my job. Like, this is crazy. And I've had that feeling every single day since I stepped out on the ice at Voorhees Media Day, the first day of my internship. It has never failed. It happens at least once a day that I'm working. It's so crazy.
Really? No,
Yeah.
that's really the best thing that anybody could ever ask for. So what would be like, do you ever think back to, that conversation you had with your 9-year-old self
Mm,
that you're like, I want to work with CSN at the time.
yeah.
You ever think back to that conversation that you had with yourself now that you're doing it?
Um, yeah. I remember back with the internship, I had it a lot because, since I got to work alongside Taryn so closely, I got to be rinkside. Sometimes I was up in the booth with Jim Jackson and Keith Jones
Mhm.
and on the bench for warm-ups and kind of just all over the place. And that happened way more frequently during the internship. Like, holy crap, if I told myself 10 years ago that I'd be doing this, I'd laugh in your face and say I was a liar.
Uh,
But
yeah.
it's still a very similar feeling now in regard to, you know, who I get to work alongside all of the time now and what I get to produce and write. It's just, yeah, it's a surreal feeling, and I set pretty crazy goals.
You have to.
I mean, it's not a surprise now. I'm like, I want this, I'm going after it, I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen.
You have to.
And you do have to go through some kind of difficult like times to get to where you want to be, but you can't go through the bad to appreciate the good as much. And
Hmm.
everything happens for a reason. And I'm just incredibly, I don't know, I'm incredibly grateful. If my like 10-year-old self knew this, like at one point I thought I was going to be an actor living in Los Angeles my whole
Really?
life and work in film. And that is clearly not the case now. But for a really long time, I also thought that that was going to be a path in my life, and it wasn't. And it wasn't meant for me. And I love acting. I love performing. I went to high school for theater.
Really?
So, hmm, little tidbit.
Did you
um,
like a theater high school or?
yeah, so I went to GCIT, Gloucester County
Oh
Institute of
yeah, I know that
Technology.
school.
So I went for performing arts drama
Okay.
and graduated back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really defining
No.
and very introverted. And I still am to a degree,
I'm
which many
sorry,
people
you
probably.
froze up a little bit. You froze up just a little bit, so I missed what you said after you said you went to GCIT and graduated in
Okay.
2015.
Okay. So it was a really defining time in my life.
High school.
And yes, high
Okay.
school. And I was very shy and introverted before I really started, especially around theater and new people, since it wasn't, your average high school, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I found like a confidence in myself and being able to believe in myself and everything that I created or produced. And while that was with acting and performing back then, it's kind of translated to my writing and everything that I create now.
Yeah.
So, I'm able to take everything that I learned from then and apply it to now. And like I said, any experience is great experience. And I miss acting and performing every single day. It's always going to be a huge part of my life. But it helped mold and sculpt me into the person that I am now. So I'm, so super grateful for it.
When you were going through all these whirlwind of things, what has been the biggest anxiety or, did you ever have any like self-doubt about all of this? Were you in the right thing? And how did you really get over that?
I think the biggest thing is basically still ongoing in regard to biggest fear, what brings the most anxiety to my job is the fact that, I am a woman in sports. And so,
That's the biggest anxiety, being a woman in sports.
yeah, and I mean, it's obviously something that makes you push and work even harder for what you do to make a name for yourself. And if anything, it's better motivation for me to keep growing my craft and learning and writing more and just trying to, you know, take in all that I can so I can put it right back out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a man dominated sports world, and it's always going to be a narrative that's put out there,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. I hope it changes in the future.
Me too.
Maybe not in our generation or lifetime, but maybe in the next one. I'm just grateful that I get to be a part of having this voice in sports, but it's nerve-wracking because there were a lot of times, especially when I first started out, that internet trolls are so dumb. Let me leave it at that.
Yeah.
But they find the exact things that strike a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know, because that goes back to the stress of being shy and less outgoing me from years ago, because things like that would put me in a hole. Like I'd be terrified to put myself out there and be
Yeah.
outgoing. And luckily I've learned to kind of swerve it in a way,
Makes sense.
and you're not going, and I learned this at a young age. You're never going to please absolutely everyone.
You
Not
can't.
everybody in the world is going to like you, regardless of if you're the most perfect person in the world. Not everybody out there is going to like you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've also had to come to terms with. So I don't know, that whole aspect stresses me out though, because I always want to be,
You always want to put your best foot forward and try to please people.
yeah, I mean, I always want to be the best that I can be and hopefully inspire others. But there
Absolutely.
are definitely times where it's tough and it's stressful. And um, again, like that's something that I think about all the time. Every time I write something new, I am nervous to put it out because, it's something that I created. It's something that I wrote, and I I don't know.
It
It's
makes sense what you're saying.
yeah, it's an interesting feeling. And actually, there was one comment. I wrote something a few weeks ago, and it's one that stuck with me. And like I said, internet trolls are dumb. I don't mind saying that, because if they want to attack people online, you know what? I can call you dumb, because you should never go after people for doing what they love.
Absolutely.
But on that note, somebody commented on something that I had written, and they were like this same old intern who knows nothing about sports, nothing about Philadelphia, and nothing about journalism. And I was like, hello? Like, sir? First of all, if
What?
I was interning at NBC Sports, which I did,
You obviously know
that's
something.
an amazing opportunity. So why you're insulting an intern that clearly has ambition and drive is beyond me. I
Yeah.
don't find being an intern at one of the top Philadelphia networks insulting, but knowing nothing about
Oh yeah,
sports,
like it's such a
journalism,
bad thing. I'm
Philly,
working at
I
my
was like,
job.
right. But that whole comment, it really kind of struck a nerve, and normally I'm able to like let it go, but yeah, sometimes trolls really get in your head.
I
So
completely understand.
yeah, and unfortunately, it's something that I don't want to say happens more as a woman in sports,
Hmm.
but it's definitely like people are less afraid to call out, say, a woman reporter than a male reporter. Um, so I'm hoping to be a part of the generation that kind of switches that narrative. And if you're writing and if you're covering a team or a sport anywhere, whatever you do, if you're an athlete, if you're um, a reporter, if you're a broadcaster, male or female, you should be able to do your job and not have to deal with sexism.
Hmm.
So I
I
hope that
agree.
I hope that I see that in my lifetime. I hope that I'm a part of that movement. Um, but for now, we just deal with trolls. So
Well, I feel like starting the Daily Puck like you did, making it a all female blog really put a huge dent in that, conversation. Do you think so as well?
hmm yeah, I mean, I wanted basically, we never had an official mission statement or anything like that, but our goal and basically our drive to keep wanting to be better is the fact that we didn't want to just be another blog put
Hmm.
out there. We wanted to give women a platform because we weren't hiring or collaborating with professional writers. All of the girls on our team, they were in college, they're in school, they're learning.
Sure.
So not only was it an element of, hey, here's a platform where you can write about sports, this is also an opportunity for them to learn. So there were times where I was able to, I had to go in and edit some pieces for them and then give some critique and constructive criticism and how you can improve and be better. And
That's the biggest thing.
that was my biggest goal, like for them to be able to walk away with tangible um, elements that they contributed to the Daily Puck and be able to put them on their resume and say they have writing experience in sports.
Hmm.
Because a lot of blogs, and I'm lucky that there are so many now that are all incorporating uh, women in sports.
Hmm.
It's so exciting, but to know that they can walk away with a portfolio of what they were able to create and take that with them for their resumes, for job interviews, for anything really. Just experience is the biggest thing that I was so happy that they were able to take with them. So, yeah,
And I know, I think it was last week, or I'm in college. My weeks are so screwed up. Or it was
understandable.
or it was 2 weeks ago, but it was National Women in Sports Day. So just talk about what that day really means to you as a woman reporter in the male dominated field.
Um, it just really, oh, excuse me. It helped, days like this help me reflect even more than what I normally do. Um, especially in regard to just how far that I've come in a short amount of time. So I was able to look back and be like, wow, like all of this has happened in a 2.5 year
Yeah.
time frame. And to be where I am now, I'm so fortunate for it. But there are so many people that I have met and have seen play and have networked with that I have just, nothing would be possible without them. And they're all strong, powerful, uplifting individuals as women, and they make their own marks in sports. And it's just, I don't know, it's so inspiring. And my favorite thing was throughout that whole day, we were all tagging each other in posts like happy girl and women in sports day, but there were also a handful of male followers that were taking a moment to tag some of us and being thankful for the content that we create and the teams that we cover.
Mhm.
And that means so much. And the growth, like as a freaking, like, I don't know, I'm so grateful to know that like we're growing, and to know that men take the time to thank the women in sports.
For sure.
That was something that I had never really seen before this year. And I'm sure it has been around, but I feel like this year more than past years, it's something that has actually been acknowledged. And I didn't see anything in regard to like, oh, when's boys and men's in National Sports Day? Like, I didn't see any of that.
Hmm.
So, not that there shouldn't be, it's every day. um, but it was a really great feeling.
Now, I know you mentioned that just being a woman in sports was one of like the biggest anxieties about just being in this industry.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering what in your mind can be done for those relations to improve. Because you said you want to be a part of that generation that improves it, or
Sure.
maybe if it doesn't happen in this generation, maybe the next generation to set it up. What can be done in the immediate future from men or women to really improve those relations and make people feel more comfortable being a woman in sports?
Sure. Um, well, first of all, for all of the girls and women who want to do this, is be fearless. If you know that you're good at it, you don't have to try and prove it to anybody else. Own
Hmm.
up to the fact that you are strong, you're fearless, and you want to go after something that like your heart like desires, like you crave being around sports. And it doesn't even go just for sports, for any field. If you love something as much as you do, go after it. Don't let anybody tell you that you cannot, because you can. I promise you, I'm living proof that you can. um,
And it can happen in a short amount of time.
right. So, and just something for the immediate future is just give women a chance, give women in sports a platform. And we live in a great age with social media
Hmm.
where it's much easier now than it was, a few decades back. But if you want to start a blog, start a blog. It's there. You can create free websites. You have free social media. You have all these like so much accessible at your fingertips to just start creating.
Hmm.
And people will catch on to it. They'll take to it. Like I said, I didn't expect the Daily Puck to blow up in a sense the way that it did in its first few months. And that all just happened because we came up with a concept, we created our social media, we created our website, and we just put ourselves out there.
Hmm.
And it's just believing in yourself and your work and what you can create. And I think that if others are able to believe in you as well, then we're on the right path.
Sure. So let me ask you this now: who are your biggest supporters? Growing up, whether it's professionally, personally, in your family,
Mhm.
and what were some of the best advice that they gave you?
Um, I mean, obviously, I'm very family oriented.
Hmm.
So it's not only just my immediate family with my parents and my brother,
Sure.
it's my extended family, my grandparents, my uncles, my aunts. They, I'm so grateful to be in such a loving and supportive family, and we're 100% Italian, so we're a big family.
I'm Italian
um,
as well.
so it's just so you understand, like family is basically everything.
Absolutely.
And I just remember from even when I had these crazy, like, out of pocket ideas from when I was a kid. I was like, I want to do this, I want to do that. It was never, are you sure? Like, are you sure that's something you want to do? Don't you want to do something a little more
Yeah.
realistic? It was always, okay, you'll get it. We know you can. And it was that kind of support just meant everything.
Hmm.
And I can't find a better word. It was everything for me to know that wherever I looked, wherever I turned, whatever ideas or career path that I was looking at, it was, you'll get it. You'll get there. We know you can. And
Yeah.
that's, I don't take that for granted at all. Because if I didn't have that kind of support that I did, I probably wouldn't be here in the career wise.
Yeah. Do you
um,
think that support also helps you come out of like your shell because you said you were very shy, as an actor, and now as a content creator, like again, that confidence still plays. So do you think having that support from your family, really helped you come out of your shell a little bit?
Definitely. I mean, it's whenever you're comfortable around people, you're more comfortable with just being able to be yourself
100%.
and find yourself. And that's basically what it felt like. Like, I'm happy that I was in such a loving environment growing up. So yeah, it made me feel comfortable and confident to be who I am, to go after what I wanted. And, now I'm here, and as less sappy as I can be, I genuinely, I'm so grateful for my, my family because
Absolutely.
they mean everything. So,
Of course. Um, so in a professional aspect, just talk about how close knit the Philadelphia media community is. When you were like, did you like immediately feel like embraced? Because I know like when I was talking with Heather Barry, when I was
mhm.
talking with Jordan, they were like, "Oh, we're all like so close and everything. We're always doing a bunch of different things in the newsroom or the media room." And in the arena. So just talk about like how you were, did you feel like immediately embraced in this close-knit community that is Philadelphia media?
Oh my God, absolutely. I like, and this is even going back to when I was an intern. Like, I always had this preconceived notion that being an intern, you were going to get coffee, no one was going to talk to you, kind of thing. And I
Can't
know
say
that
I haven't thought that myself.
and I mean, I guess that that's kind of what film has portrayed the stereotypical intern to be.
Sure.
But that was in my head. I was so afraid that that's what was going to happen. And from the minute I came in, everyone was like, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? How can we help? What do you want to learn? How can we show you? Welcome. Like, it was just like, it was just this such an overwhelming feeling of feeling like I belonged. And just everywhere you turn, like, it's not even just based off of direct, like, media. Like, our content room is fantastic. Everyone gets along with everybody. It's probably the best work environment I've ever been in.
Really?
And oh yeah, I just everyone you work with, it's so open, and it's it's fantastic. And then even when you're in the press box and you see the beat writers, the podcasters, the the broadcasters, the photographers. It's never like anybody's, like, there's never any bad blood. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like everybody just truly gets along so well. And it's, it's an atmosphere it's electric. And you crave wanting to be there because you're around people who want to work hard and better themselves, but also better you. And it's just, I don't know, it's the craziest thing in the world.
So I asked Jordan a few days ago. I was like, "Do you remember any like your first interaction with Brooke? Like, what was like, oh, like tell me something interesting so I can like bring it up." And he said he's like, "Well, she's only been here for like a year, so I haven't like I don't remember that much. So I'm gonna ask you, what was like, your most memorable, moments, starting out, meeting, Jordan or Heather, or some of the other Philadelphia media people. Like, what are some of your most memorable moments with that close knit community?
Sure. So the first time I mean, Jordan and I had, like, we followed each other on Twitter. We interacted with each other on Twitter because um, when I was interning, I was in the production truck. I was never in our newsroom.
Mm-hmm.
So one time toward the end of the season was the first time that I ever really got to talk to Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
in person, at least, put a face
Yeah.
to the Twitter account.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, we informally introduced ourselves, so we were waiting for the elevator to go down to the event floor. And I just remember, because I was still stressed out, thinking like the season was going to end. I didn't know what I was doing next. And like the fifth sentence I said to him was like, I don't know what I'm going to do when this is over. I'm just going to cry about it. And that's and I'm sure, I mean, Jordan Hall's the nicest professional person that I've ever met in my life. And, like, I'm sure you'll hear that about anybody if you ask them about Jordan Hall. He's incredible. I'll rave about him. He's just the hardest working person I've ever met.
Yeah.
And that was the first interaction in person that I genuinely remember with him. And then I remember once I started producing, um, he had come up to me and was like, "Isn't it crazy that you were saying like you didn't know what you were going to do and now you're here?" And I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God. So, yeah, that was probably the first interaction I had with Jordan that I remember. And I mean, we see each other all the time now, and we work together and collaborate together. And it's just to be with somebody who's so well respected and has built up such a following and respect as a Flyers, beat reporter. It's incredible.
Now, when you were going to look for jobs and you're sending out things and you're reaching out to people, do you ever think that like somebody who was in your position is gonna like, maybe shoot you a DM and say, "Hey, can I have some feedback on this story?" What do you envision? How do you think you'll feel if somebody does that for you?
Um, I don't know. I think it's like, even the fact that, like, you had reached out to me and wanted to speak to me about where I am and how I got here, like, just to even know that, like, people care about my work and what I do and want to know my opinions on things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's insane to think that, I don't know, like, people care.
Yeah.
Like, I just, I don't know. Not that I was an outcast or anything, but I was a drama kid in high school.
Yeah.
So it's not like people paid us any time of day. So to
I
know
know
that,
the
like,
narrative's there.
yeah. So to know that, like, what I'm putting out means something to people, and my opinion and my take on things means something. It's it's crazy. Like, I just had to reschedule with someone, but she had reached out to me and she's like, I'm graduating soon. I would love to um, just kind of pick your brain a little bit and get some advice for um, how to take the next steps in life, about finding a job, about finding a career. And I was like, me?
Yeah.
Okay. um,
Like you think I'm qualified to do this?
yeah, well, I keep also forgetting that I'm like an adult now. Like I'm 22, but like the other day, and this is nothing sports related, but I was at an event with my brother, and his friend was parking at the school, but scraped the car next to her when she was parking. And my brother went over to comfort her, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go get an adult." And I was like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
the adult." I was like, "That's me." So
Honestly, I feel
like,
like that would be me too.
so I'm still in like that like transitional like phase of like, yes, I have a full-time job now. I have health benefits. Woohoo. But like I'm the adult.
Yeah.
So like holy crap, when did that happen?
Hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at now. Like, am I really like qualified to be able to give these people advice? But I guess they're taking it from the perspective of, I recently was able to do this and accomplish it.
Oh yeah.
So, it's very humbling. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm sure. And it really just goes to show because, like, you said you're only 22. Like, I'm 20.
Hmm.
Like, a lot can happen in 2 years, and I think that's something I need to work on as well.
Hmm.
If like I have like a bad week or something, it's like, well, somebody 2 years older than me is having a full-time job and having the time of their life. I can definitely do this.
Oh my God, yeah. You have to believe in yourself and what you create. And I remember I was talking to Jordan about you after you had reached out to me, and I was like, this is an incredible idea that you have to interview people in sports media and not only get experience writing, but to network. I was like, this is like, I wish I had this idea when I was in school. So like, please keep doing this, because
Thank you.
it's going to benefit you in so many ways, and I'm sure it already has.
Thank you.
But I just remember talking to Jordan about it, and I was like, he's on to something. This is good. So, yeah.
I cannot appreciate your time enough. I really can't.
Oh my God, I was so excited. Like, thank you for like wanting to reach out and do this. I was like, someone wants to interview me? Why?